done a drum circle with your classes before? Today, you've just heard from some of the world leaders in music research and approaches, but now it's time to get really practical. We're going to transform this learning together into an approach with some practical tips that any music teacher can use. Now, our next speaker is very learned in both author approach and understands the science behind how our brain and music work together. She's got some very clever tips and approaches to combining this with drum circle settings. Her name is Knysh, and she is the founder of rhythmicconnections.com. Now, she's an orchestral trainer and presenter at conferences worldwide. She's not just a drum guru though. She has real research, she has mastery and strong reasons why it's important to learn these strategies and how to prepare our children for learning through drum circle techniques. So it's going to be really insightful. It's going to be really interesting look into some new ideas into this session. And I want to thank you, Mary, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
It's fantastic. Mary, you've got so much in your background. I mean, you're not just a leader, a teacher or anything like that. You are a musician, a recording artist and an author as well. You know, with a background like that, how did you find your way into drum circle?
It's such a good question. I was teaching for many years in the classroom, and I had my orchestral work trainings, and I kept looking for ways to introduce an experience for children so that they could really find their way into understanding music experientially. And so I play lots of instruments, but when I started studying drumming, which was a little later in my life, it's been about 30 years, I got so excited about the possibilities of this really user-friendly, accessible instrument and how across the board it was a beautiful tool for teaching. So I went and studied with Arthur Hall. I took workshops because he at the time was one of the primary people sharing. And I was studying with David Darling with an organization called Music for People at the time as well. So between those two schools of thought and my music education in the classroom and looking for more, that's how I found my way in.
Oh, fantastic. And learning from a master like Arthur Hall is pretty insightful in itself, isn't it?
Yes, very inspiring.
Fantastic. So perhaps, so that we're all on the same page with you, Mary, you know what a drum circle is, but for regular music teachers out there, you know, we perhaps haven't come in contact with drum circles so much. It's not often something that we use as something to get started with. So can you define what a drum circle actually is to us, and what does it do?
Yes. Basically a drum circle, and I made a few little notes here so I could access space. Yeah. A drum circle is, if you would imagine getting a group of people together, a group of students together, everything is in a circle, so you already establish an equal space. So the teacher now becomes a part of the experience. Everybody has a clear sight and view of one another. And the role of a drum circle is for the group to be empowered to create music together. So generally they would start with the simplest rhythm that everybody would find. I usually will start with a heartbeat, and everybody can join. So it is inclusive regardless of experience level. All students have a place in the circle. All voices are celebrated. Everybody is included and equal. And the idea is it becomes a self-organizing system so that the same skills that are important in life are important in a drum circle. That you listen, that you agree to be a part of what pulls us together in a common rhythm, and that you sometimes speak up and solo, and a lot of times you're supporting other players. And that you work together to find the flow of a circle, being flexible, listening. And if things go into chaos, then the group has to work together to reorganize themselves. So the facilitator is holding the space for the circle, but they're creating the music, the group.
Mary, I love that concept because, you know, we as music teachers, we come into this with children of so many different backgrounds and so many different ability levels and so forth. This kind of just sounds like it evens things up a bit and starts us all on the same level.
It does. And I always say when I'm training facilitators, The job is to create a safe space,
Mm,
and you're of service to the group. So
mm.
it's not about my knowledge, it's not about me really at all. It's about how can I create a space where the genius of each participant in the group can come forth. And you empower the players, and through that you create community, and everyone supports each player in the community.
I love that. We've just been speaking to Jim Basinius today too, and he talks about bully proof in the classroom. So this is really on track, and it's just such an easy system. I can hear your off approach coming through in this too, because something like a group of drums or instruments is just something to spark the creativity in that process too, isn't it?
It is. It's fabulous. And for the students that don't feel like they're a part of the class or they feel not in sync, it's a
Mm.
beautiful way to bring all students together. And I think it's the best anti bullying process you could do.
Yes.
Everyone supports each player, and all voices are valued and respected and appreciated.
So I'm really looking forward to getting into what we would say here in Australia, the nitty gritties of how you do this. This is fantastic. First of all, let's talk about the benefits of this, though. What real benefits would drum circles have in our day-to-day classrooms, and what sort of why should this be a technique that we could use over and over again? I think the benefits I'm hearing already are the bully proofing, is making every child have an equal and safe space in the classroom, and being able to use these techniques to spark creativity and genius in our children. They're just a few of the benefits. Are there others as well?
Yes. Usually, when I talk about drum circles, I talk about using music as a metaphor for life.
Mm,
And so, in my mind, the children are learning leadership skills
mm,
because often they're stepping forth, they're sharing ideas, or they step into leading the group themselves.
yeah.
They're learning to access creative problem solving. Because on the fly in a drum circle, you have to be flexible, you have to be listening, and you have to be willing to give up an idea, even
Mm,
if you're really attached to it, let it go,
mm,
and be willing to create something new on the spot based upon other inspirations and ideas that come in the circle. They learn how to work together as a team, and all of those things work together for students so that they really access, I say, experiential learning on the fly. So they're learning the important elements of music by experiencing music in flow and
mm,
in activity and participation.
mm. I love all that. It's so in line, and it just sounds so innovative. I mean, I've been reading. You sent some of your materials to me, and I'm just so excited about that, because there's more to it than this. It's more than just the activities that you do. It's more than just a bunch of things that we throw at our kids and invoke all these wonderful processes and creativity. But you've also got this 5-part transformational learning process that you
Yeah.
talk about a lot. Can you tie this in for us too, Mary? Can you give us a rundown of what it means and how it helps, not just in music in that sense, but I love that metaphor that you've got that broadens it out to the overall growth and learning as well.
Exactly. It's almost in my mind life. And when I've been looking at brain research,
Mm.
Eric Jensen, Teaching with the Brain in Mind, is one of the people I've followed for many years, and I am Judy Willis is another.
Yes.
And I'm very interested in how they look at the process of learning. And so I've been training people to facilitate for almost 30 years now.
Wow.
And I get to look at people learning how to lead groups into improvisation and into drum circle experiences. So when I look at what has to happen and in what order for a group to really be able to become a self-organizing system, which is what I
Mm.
think a drum circle is.
Mm.
Um, the first thing that has to happen is listen. So we often will start with heartbeat, and I'll invite students to find their pulse, either here, so that they listen internally and they understand that they're already full of music. I'm just, my job is to bring it out and to help them understand that what's natural and easy is the way that they access what's inside. So they'll start by finding pulse, tapping it in the air. And then they look around the circle and they see that everybody is tapping their pulse. We all have a pulse and heartbeat, but it's unique to each one of us. The minute they take two hands now and bring that pulse to their legs, and I don't lead it or direct it, I just myself quietly come down as well. Within 5 seconds, the group entrains. And the minute that sound from everybody's individual heartbeat goes onto the legs or onto a drum, they're together like that. And I say the laws of physics are that we entrain. We're comfortable when we're together. It's how as human beings we want to be, is to be together. And from that launching off, the listening, now they're listening to each other. And they're listening as a group. So listening is the foundation of everything. And I have a lot of activities that do that. But once we're listening, then we connect. And once we're connected, you can start to imitate one another. So somebody has an idea and you can be drumming and go, oh, I love that. And take an idea and start to play it and then expand upon it, add your own idea. So now you're starting to gather and harvest ideas by being connected. Then the next step would be communicate. And so once we're listening and connected, we can communicate. And so we start to have little conversations. I'll speak a little on my drum, somebody will answer, you'll speak to someone on the side, and then maybe across the circle. And so you start to have conversations. One side of the circle all speaks to the other side. And there's lots of ways to get them organized so that they understand that they're communicating. Once those three things are in place, then the circle can create and collaborate. And then ideas spring forth. And if I'll stop and maybe ask 3 players to continue to play and say, we love your ideas, you can stay. Everybody else in the circle stops and listens to these 3 players. They imitate one part. And all of a sudden, when I bring the circle back in, it's alive with these 3 parts. And people have chosen what part they love. And then I say, go free, take it somewhere new. And now they've created an entirely new rhythm. It's never happened before and never will happen the same again. Always fresh, always new. And from that, we're inspired. So when we can collaborate and create together, we get new inspiration, new ideas, and it continues to take us in the arc of learning. And from that, afterwards, a session, we're now transformed. And I look at learning as transformation. So when a group leads a session like this, they are different than they were when they came in. They're connected, even if they didn't know each other, they're connected. And for a classroom, it's a beautiful way to learn experientially. And then we debrief and say, what did you notice? What had to take place for our rhythms to connect? What happened when it went into chaos? What did you do, to make it work again? And how do parts interlock? And you have to leave silence so that you can hear other parts. So all music elements can be learned in an experiential way. It's kind of like the back door in.
I love this concept, Mary. I mean, it's just a fantastic mindset because you're coming from the what most people would say is the known, and then you're going into the unknown, but it's quite natural.
Yeah,
the whole process is so natural.
It is, and that's, I think, the beauty is to have the experience of learning music be as natural and organic as it can be, so that people, and I say the Socratic idea of education is that education educed. You bring forth the genius of what's already there, and that's what you build upon, is what they already know. And so they know that the foundation are their ideas. And what's more beautiful and what better way to be invested in learning and invested in what you're creating than having it be built on your ideas. And so everyone's excited. And as a teacher, facilitator, I never know exactly how a class is going to open up and where it's going to go. I know, I like to say I build an infrastructure. So I know what the basic foundation is, but then the students come like building a house. I could build the frame. And when the students come in, they put up the paneling and the side and the roof, and it's their ideas. So when we're done, The house is created by all of us.
Mm, that's oh, that's a lot to take in there, and that's fantastic because because you're building that net in every single section. I mean, what I
Yeah.
love what I love about you is that you really encapture this whole thing, and this whole thing of you are kind of like a marketer, but you're also kind of like this beautiful embracement of learning at the same time. And this is what makes you so special, I think. You get people to buy in what you do by doing it well and by having a big why as to why you do it.
Yeah. Well, the why is I just really believe that music brings joy into our life. It helps us be together. It empowers us to be the best we can be.
Yes.
And it's such a simple, beautiful way to access that for any age.
Yes.
Any.
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous, Mary. I tell you what, I've bought it. That's for sure. I want to come to
I
this.
believe in it.
So basically, you go through a process of, and every session you do, does it start the same, or do you always start at different levels? I mean, obviously, you wouldn't start with everyone's heartbeat every single time. You'd mix it up. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. And it depends. I have a couple of, for early education, I have a really nice 3-step process that I love to do. And actually,
Yes.
I use it with all ages. And so the first thing is, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but I start with my hands on my legs, and then we take a breath in. And then at the top of the voice, I'll say siren down. So we go, ah, boom. And if we have a drum in front, we'll boom on the drum.
Yes.
And then the second time, so they're warming their voice up.
Yeah.
They're warming their body up, and they're also keeping their shoulders relaxed, which is really important when you're drumming. And so I get the physicality. The second time I say, listen around the room and see if you can land exactly at the same time. And so again, they go up and boom. And by the third time, every group, every age, even 2 and 3-year-olds are together. It is a miracle.
Wow.
And then I'll have them again take a breath and stop in the middle. And I'll say, when I say go, wiggle your fingers as fast as you can. So they go, and they'll wiggle as fast as they can. And I'll say, 1, 2, 3, 4, freeze. And say, what do you feel? So that they really get the energy. They can feel what's going on in their body, particularly when they'll freeze. I also want to know that they're going to stop. So if they do this, they're learning how to self-manage. And I'm already saying, okay, we're together.
Yes.
And then the second time I'll say, make a sound. So they'll take a breath. And I say, go. Now articulate the sound of your moving fingers. And then if they can freeze and come out of that chaos of voice and fingers moving, the third time then we'll move it higher. So now they're tracking pitch with this high energy. And then they come down and put that on the drums. And then it's a rumble on the drums as fast as they can go. And I make it really big. And so now they're relaxing. Their shoulders are relaxing. They're getting any kind of nervousness out so that they can really be prepared to settle in to the drum circle. And so they're on the drum, and they'll get very quiet on the drum. And now I'll say, rumble as quiet as you can. And then we might do a game of rumble firecracker where I'll cue one person and boom, they'll play loud. And then we get quiet again. And then another person, boom. And then I turn over the leadership. So another student is immediately in charge of choosing students to play loud. And you can play with that for a while, and then they can give a little idea and the group echoes. But it's all in this motion. This energy is there. And as soon as the group settles, it opens up a beautiful opportunity to really be together in sound. And everyone is relaxed and everyone is really connected.
Yeah.
So that would be another way in. I have a lot of different ways that I work in.
Fantastic. And that is just divine, because there's hardly any talking in that.
No talking. I talk very little.
Yeah.
And actually facilitation, and because I work all over the world, I've had to, translation takes so long. I can say a line, and then sometimes it feels like in Japanese and in German, it takes 10 times longer than what I said to translate it. So I've learned how to say what's important, but really model as much as I can. And when I train teachers and educators and people to facilitate, that's what I say. I say, if you are inspired yourself, then you are going to inspire the kids. They are going to be on for the ride, and they're going to be in the game and in the learning experience in a really vibrant way.
This is just opens up so many opportunities here, doesn't it? And I mean, so you would be on the track that if you could use drum circle in every single session, you would.
I would.
Yeah.
I would start every class with a drum circle, and I would have the kids manage their own drum circle. If I could manage a classroom for anybody or make a suggestion, my suggestion would be, in the beginning of the year, introduce just what I said, the drum circle, creating a space, some of the simple volume sculpt and 1, 2, 3, 4 stop, and have the kids practice that. And I would lead the circle for the first week or two, but by about the third week, I would have them become the facilitators of the circle and start each music class in this way, so that they're engaged, they're calm, they're ready to learn. And they're already learning in the experience by leading the group and creating. And maybe 5 or 10 minutes is all that's needed, and the rest of the class can go on. And I would bring everything in as experiential as possible during the class. But it's a beautiful way to start. And if the kids are the ones that facilitate, it's a beautiful thing. And they are so much more creative than even I would ever think to be. It's amazing to see what they do.
I love this whole process because it's the emotion that makes us learn, isn't it? It's the emotion behind learning. And this is what this does. You are giving the emotion directly to the students.
Exactly. And that empowerment, and it's the thing, Simon Sinek, when he said the limbic part of the brain is really the one that buys in. And it's not based in language. It's based in emotion. And so for them to come into a class and be emotionally engaged in an experience that's safe, where all ideas are celebrated, anything is possible. I mean, it's learning at its best, in learning in the way the brain learns best.
Yeah, and you've got real synergy there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and things just flow. Once you've got that synergy, it just works, doesn't it?
It really does. And I keep telling teachers, the other thing I say is, when you do a concert with families and parents, engage them, do something, do a little body percussion drum circle, put shaker eggs in the seats so that they're a part of one of the songs, or have one of the students lead the parents, in the same way they're leading the group, so that the parents, because they're longing to participate and play. Music it changes our lives. And at any age, it could be the thing that could make someone feel the best they could possibly feel. They could leave a concert and go, "Oh, that was great." And it was great because they got to play. They got to be.
And if we think about it, how many parents wish that they played an instrument? So this is their chance.
I hear it all the time. Absolutely. And in Music for People, we train people to improvise and train people to use music for self-expression. And it's amazing how many people come that just say, I just have always wanted to play something. And sometimes it's as simple as a bunt pan that you play the side of, and it makes this amazing gong sound. And they're like, oh, wow. So we say it's the wonder and the awe in life, and what a beautiful gift to give someone, the gift of music at any age.
So, Mary, I just have to ask you right now, because I can hear some of the questions that are happening in the back of all of our minds, as especially of music teachers that are in the day-to-day stuff at the moment. They're thinking, how about budget restrictions? I mean, I'm sure that I've got a participant question right on here. I'll just have a look and see if I can find it. But no, that's always the number one question. What do I do if I have no budget? What if I don't have any djembes or any of these exciting instruments? Can we just go back to body art or body percussion and pots and pans, like you said?
Absolutely. I use everything. And so I do a lot of inner city schools. These days I'm a teaching artist, so I work with many arts councils, and they get grants. And often I'll get a grant to go into an inner city school with kids of all different ages, and they'll say exactly that. We don't have any drums.
Yes.
I'll bring buckets in because buckets are fabulous. You can flip them over, and our buckets have a ridge on them, the plastic 5-gallon buckets. So we'll use sticks on those.
Fantastic.
And I'll usually get roofing rubber to put in the middle so it makes it lower and it isn't quite so abrasive on their ears. I make drums with a lot of students. I've found a fabric called heat shrink Dacron, and it is super. And you can glue it to cans and to the cardboard barrels, and it makes a super, and frames, wooden frames. So I'm always making drums with kids, lots of different ways to do that. You can drum on desks, you can body drum, you can drum on instruments, so I'll say, well, let's use the ukulele or the Orff instrument like a drum. What if you had 3 sounds? Choose 3 notes, your favorite notes, and let's play a rhythm on that. And you can also run a class. I say it's the instrument, it's the drum circle with no instruments. It's all voice. So if you have 4 instruments, 1 bell, 1 shaker, 1 wood, and 1 drum, then you play it and give a call, and you give them the idea of what does it sound like? Can you imitate that? Can you sing what my drum is playing? Can you sing what the guido's doing? Greek, Greek, da, da, da. How about the shaker? How about the bell? Gang, dang, dong, dong, gang, gang, dong, dong. So they listen, imitate the parts, they sing what I'm playing, and then they choose what instrument they're going to be, and then we come in one by one with their sounds. Or the whole group comes in and I say, 1, 2, let's all play. But they're doing it on their voice. Or they can do it in body drumming. I show them other ways to clap to get lots of different sounds. So there's so many ways to do these activities, whether you have drums or not.
I love it, Mary, because how many how many groups are there at the moment that are just imitating sounds? I mean, it's
Exactly.
amazing. And so that just really brings relevance into our children as well.
It does. And it helps them know that music happens everywhere, and the best instrument is your body.
Yeah.
Body, percussion, and voice. And when they know that, I think of Bobby McFerrin. I listened to an interview that he gave a couple weeks ago, and it was just beautiful. He was talking about the organic nature of the human body. And he said if everybody knew what they were full of and what the potential was there, people would be making music everywhere, and they would be so much happier. And I agree.
And I just it's fantastic to pick up on him too, because just the biochemistry aspect is so interesting, isn't it? How we do the things we do, and it just happens. It's just part of nature.
I know. We live in I'm so sorry that so many people feel like if you don't have a music degree or you're not a professional, that for some reason you're not a musician. And that's why I start with heart. I start with walking beat. Hands, you're just walking. It's easy. It's what we do. And with voice, we just say, take a breath and make a sound. Ha. And we say music for people, there are no wrong notes. So what if in the world all sounds were accepted? When people make a breath and they all make their own unique sound and pitch, it is absolutely beautiful. And people are stunned. They just go, you can tell. We say it's the awe. Wow, look what's possible. It's a miracle. It really is a miracle that we're so full of music.
I love this concept that you've got too, starting with just simple, heartbeat and simple one hand, other hand. Often as educators, we put these into certain boxes. We think, oh, that's a preschool activity. This is something we do to get the beat right at the beginning. But that's not true, is it, Mary?
It's not. It's the brain research says that we need simplicity and accessibility to open the door to step in. And if kids think the rhythm's too hard, or they've got calypso or clave or something that they can't do, they'll just shut down and say, I can't do it. So you open the door with you meet everyone, which is the common denominator of what's the easiest way in, the best way in. And once they're in, you start to add and scaffold up degrees of sophistication, because the brain gets bored very quickly as well. And it goes, I want novelty, give me something new. And so you keep adding it in sequentially. And it's amazing where the journey can go if it's added that way. But it's got to start simple. Even with classical musicians, we work with a lot in Music for People. I say, you've got to simplify. Simple, start, KISS. Keep it short and simple. Start there. And that's the way that we begin. And then things can blossom, because that's how we listen and start. No matter whether you're a professional or a brand new beginner.
And how good does it all feel to all of us, you know, just to know that even in any different setting, that's enough variety for the minute, isn't it? And then to bring in just something that we can all start with confidence with is just a huge revelation, really, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And I see it work over and over again with every age, in every country. It's a miracle. I mean, it's just amazing. And if you would ask me, the one thing I would tell educators is start simple. Start simple with your sixth graders. Then build. They'll create the sophistication. They'll add where they are, and they'll keep bumping the bar up. You know, I mean, they will, as they start to create, they'll bring in all of their skills and their knowledge. When you open the doorway to their ideas, it is stunning what they can create. I mean, truly stunning.
Mary, we've been talking a lot about our bags of tricks in this conference so far. You know, what's some of the things that might be in your bag of tricks that you just pull out? You've talked about quite a few. You've talked about the firecracker game and so forth. Just offhand, is there a few things in your bags of tricks that you can pull out and just throw at us?
Yeah, well, let's see. Bag of tricks. I mean, I think the bag of tricks is going to the fundamentals. So what do I think is really important? What has to happen? The heartbeat, connecting, starting simple is always something I'm looking for. If the circle goes into chaos, so this is one of the bag of tricks as a facilitator. You see the group start to go, they're doing fine, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I don't know where the rhythm is. And clearly somebody has stopped listening and is still in there driving it. So then from the bag of tricks, you have to decide, well, what am I going to do? You know, you look around the circle, you go, what's the best intervention that's going to serve the group? Because again, it's not about me, it's about the group. So a couple of choices are, you could always go to rumble. So you could say, well, we're on our way anyway to chaos. Now everybody rumble, and bring it loud and bring it soft and bring it loud so that they're all together again. But now, you know, in this rumble, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. And then you could again bring the pulse, 1, 2, back to the groove. And everybody's back in the pulse, and I'm moving my body. Or you have another choice. You can look around, the circle's gotten into chaos. I can look around, and there's still some players that are pretty locked in. So I could go to those players, maybe 4 of them, and I'll section them out, sculpt them, and I'll say, you keep playing. And then the rest of the circle, I'll cue the rest of the circle and go 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Now there's only 4 players. And if sometimes even those 4 players or more go into chaos themselves, then when the rest of the circle falls, leaves, sometimes it's like, whoa, because they've been listening to someone else and depending on them, that's now gone. So then you can do what's called a marker groove. So you can go to the rest to help organize. I'll say these 4, keep on playing, you're making it up. And to the rest of the group, I'll go boom, boom, wait, boom, boom. And then, or I hear you, wait, boom, 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 wait. So you can find a very simple, solid rhythm. So the rest of the group becomes a support for those players, locks it back in, and then I'll say 1, 2, back to the group, and everybody else comes back in.
Love it, Mary. Just
right. So what you learn is, how do you creatively get out of the chaos? And move it forward and lift it without stopping everyone saying, well, we all messed that up. So I never say that. And I hope that it models for them, even in life, when things are just out of control, which we all know happens. That if you're able to relax and listen and adjust, then things will fall back into sync again. And so being flexible and listening and giving up an idea or being willing to jump on a new idea and inspiration and support other players and say, let's be there with you. Okay.
What I love about this is it's just lessons for life, Mary.
They are. Well, I think everything I learn in a drum circle is really everything we
Yeah.
learn about life.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
share the space, listen to one another, respect each other, communicate, communicate clearly and openly,
Mm.
and figure out what you have to say. The beauty of improvisation in a drum circle for me is that children discover that music is a language, and it's a language that they could speak where it bypasses all words, and
Mm.
it's a language that'll speak directly from emotion, from the limbic system, emotion. And it's a beautiful thing. And if they have time to do that, Carl Orff really believed that they needed enormous amounts of time in the classroom of freedom to
Mm.
be able to discover what their voice was, so they could go into the world and continue sharing their musical voice,
Mm.
whether they're a professional or not,
Mm.
continue making music.
Mm. And thank you for those takeaway strategies too. They are incredible to just put the dots. It's putting the dots together, isn't it? It's coming out with
It is.
real life things that
Exactly.
seem, when you're showing us, it seems so simple.
And I think that's one of the other things I talk a lot in trainings about, and talk to teachers about, is transitions,
Mm.
is fluid changing from one point to another without a lot of talking.
Mm.
So it's an energy thing. You know, I talked about the arc: listen, connect, communicate, inspire. Um, and in a session, I'll often move from one thing to the next in that scaffolding idea,
Yes.
adding something more sophisticated, adding something else, more novelty, so that there's more tools. I might do a bell pattern to a group. Half of the group is playing, half of the group I've stopped. And just to get a new idea, I might go, that, get, that, dong, dong. They echo it, get, that, dong, dong. So I'm already introducing, this one is clave, ba, ga, da, dong, dong. Or calypso, dong, got get, dong, got get. Or a new rhythm, so that they hear it. And when they start again, now they've got a new tool to play with. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful way to teach, but we say almost teacherless teaching. And this flow, thinking about when you stop everybody, then the energy of everybody goes boom. And then
Yes.
you've got to lift it up again. So when you stop and talk, and you know, give directions and then you have to lift it again. And it's exhausting for
Yes.
kids that stop, you know, up and down. And so this beautiful, seamless arc of flow and transitions is one of the skills that I love to share with educators, because it really does work. I mean, it makes a class a magical experience.
It certainly is an experience, isn't it? And it's almost a therapy.
It is. Actually, I'm working with Parkinson's now, and with autistic kids, and looking at how do we create experiences for all of these different types of communities. And flow is so important, and it really does make such a huge difference in the learning process. Because I think apprenticing, it's almost like apprenticing, because you're learning by someone modeling it for you. But not only modeling, but then asking you to give it back, and then asking you to lift it higher.
Yes.
And so on the journey, at the end of the journey, you can ask the kids what you noticed. What did they learn? They learned about dynamics. They learned about balance of sound and silence. They learned so many of the important elements of basic musical knowledge in experience.
Yeah. And this flow concept is really intriguing to me, because it's exactly how we learn, isn't it? One idea builds onto the other, and the excitement of that idea builds onto the next thing and the next thing.
Exactly. And it's connecting to what is meaningful to the kids.
Yes.
And if they're creating it, it makes meaning. They're connected to it. It's theirs. They own it. They care.
Yes.
And they'll nurture it and care about it, and they'll want to understand it. And then when they learn how to write music down, it's like, take their ideas that they've created, and now they're going to want to write it down, because they're going to want to remember the cool rhythm that they created.
Yes.
And so then already music literacy is attached to caring about what they created. So they're inspired to learn. And I have to, if I want to hold that longer, how would I write that? What would that look like? How could I notate that so that I could teach it to other kids? How
Mm.
does that cross and get transferred to other students, and then they teach each other. And I love that. So it's a beautiful introduction to literacy as well.
Yes, and it's just so natural, as you said. And the other thing I love about that is it inspires children to bring in what they have already, what they have at home, and you can just start with that so easily, can't you?
Right. And it builds on language skills and, connects to everything that's important in their lives. Emotion. Play in a musical conversation. Tell them that you're really mad at them,
Yes.
and they'll play on a drum, and then someone will answer, in another way.
I love that.
And you get the physicality of emotion, and you hear it on the instrument. And then it's always fun to have one of the students translate. So I'll say, okay, someone's going to stand behind you and say, he just said, da, 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 da. And they have a great time with that. So then they go back and put the language in of,
yes.
Look at that. And the drama of music. And then if they listen to Mozart or Beethoven, they hear the drama of composers and go, oh, that was what it was about.
And they're almost hearing that musical conversation.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things I wanted to share with you that is another opener that's very important to me is the cross the midline drumming.
Yes. Now we hear about this all the time. Midline,
for a long time I was, and I'm not sure you can see the drum. Is it all right if I adjust the screen?
Please do, Mary. Yes, anything so we can see that. That's fantastic.
This is something I was working with a woman who does a lot of working with young children with neurological disorders. And she told me, she was at one of the ORF conferences many years ago, and she said, Mary, you cross the midline in 3 ways when you're drumming. She said it's a brilliant thing. And so she brought me into one of her sessions, and I went, oh, yay. And I was so struck by what she was saying. And so I share it as often as I can. Now I'm going to back up. Let me see if I can back up a little bit.
Beautiful.
How does that work?
It's perfect. Yeah, we can see it perfectly. That's fantastic.
All right, my head is cut off a little bit, but this is important to show. So the first thing she showed me was, and this is often how I'll warm up, is rocking the body forward and back. And so we'll start in, out. And so I invite the students to really do the dance of this, and then I'll sing something over the top of it. Hey, yana, ho, yana. They'll echo back. Hey, yana, yana. So now the body's engaged. We know that engages the brain. They're drumming this forward and back, and they're singing over the top. So now you've got a beautiful warm-up and the dance of the drum in the body. So that's the forward back. And if you think about kids, they rock.
Yes. It's natural. We do it as adults too.
So we're crossing the midline all the time, just naturally. So the second one is, and it's a beautiful to do 3. So if it's just a in, out, bass, tone, and then I say, now rock from side to side. Now all the time it's walking hands like feet. And then I'll sing something over the top. Ishe Oluwa. And they echo. Ishe Oluwa. Now go. Kole Bajayo. So as relaxed as possible, again engaged in the side to side dance. And you see bodies just go,
yes.
And relax. It's a beautiful thing. So the third one, now those 2, I knew, the cross this way, and forward back. But the third one is up, down.
Okay.
And I never thought about that. And when Eve showed me, I went, oh, that's fabulous. And she said, Mary, when you're doing your Caribbean rhythms, you're riding up and down.
Wow.
And I thought, I am. So, because when I'm showing, when I'm showing the up and down calypso, I love calypso. I lived in the Caribbean when I was growing up, my teen years. Heather. Long history. My best friend, when I was 5 years old, moved from Corning, New York, where I grew up, to St. Thomas. And it was before a lot of people lived there from the States, and she lived way on one side of the mountain in St. Thomas, and so we went almost every year and visited them. And so I have sort of the Caribbean influences, and now I play steel drum as well, and I love it. I love music. So calypso is really fun, and I have everyone sit on the edge of their chair, and I say, now you're going to ride like a horse. So you're riding calypso.
Oh, wow.
And you really accentuate its toes. And then day-o, day-o, daylight coming and me wanna go. And then I'll do a couple Caribbean songs over it, or chingaleo. And so they get this dance that it's more than when you play, it's an entire body experience.
Yes.
For me, it's a dance. And when I started to hear, so the four things for me struck me in Boston, the neuroscience speaks about four primary ways that we affect neuroplasticity and change the brain and grow more connectors, right and left hemisphere. And so the four were, and when I heard them, I was so excited. Carl Polnack at Texas Music Educators Association had a beautiful keynote, I think it was 3 years ago, and it was Music Saves Lives. And he opened it by saying there's four things that really transform our brains: making music, movement, creative play. And he was very clear about creative play being imaginary, creating it, really downright return to child creative. And Music for People, David Darling's motto was return to child. It's the name of our book. It's what we do. It's what we believe about the musical experience, bringing it alive again. And the fourth one was numinous experience. Anytime that, and we all went, numinous, what is that?
Love that word.
I know, isn't it great? Numinous. Sounds magical,
Yeah.
And teachers go, oh, and I always say luminous because it sounds like luminous.
It does.
Isn't it cool? What it means is anytime you step out of your sense of self is absorbed and lifted by something greater. And so you are a part of the whole. And I think a drum circle is exactly that.
Yes.
It is that you give up to be a part of this beautiful self-organizing system that doesn't know where it's going to go, but it trusts every member to really be present and authentic to create something that's never been before. And what could be more beautiful than that? I mean, it's the best life has to offer. So
it certainly sounds like we're all working for the good of the good, and we're all working for the higher purpose, the whole reason, to be there.
It's my why. We went back to the why, and it's my why. When I think about why do I love this work, and I feel so privileged and honored to have a chance to do it and to share it, and to have had these years just exploring. Improvisation is one of those things that you walk into every situation and you never know what you're going to find, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. When I do an ORF clinic or a workshop, I give notes and I say, this is what might happen, but I said, you're going to help to inform me, you as a group, as to what the journey is going to be. And then I always give post-session notes of what we actually did. I record it, and then I say, and this is what we did. And it's good for me because I get to see in that state of flow and transition what this group inspired, because it's not about me. It's about them, us.
Yeah. And what they've brought to the plate and how they've added to everything that in your life as well.
Exactly.
It all goes around.
The best of the best. What could be better?
Yeah.
And music can do that.
Yes.
There's not many places in our lives that can happen. And if kids know that in education, if they have that experience in music class, they're going to be music makers for the rest of their lives. They'll always have music be a part of their lives.
And isn't that a strong reason why? What are we doing this for? We want them to enjoy it for the rest of their lives, don't we?
Exactly. And it's a gift. It's a human gift, that we should be enjoying and treasuring and growing through.
Yes.
Creative play. That's how we learn.
Yes, Mary, can I bring you back to a couple of participant questions, because this leads really perfectly into that. You know, this is just fantastic because so often we think drum circle, oh, that has to be for the corporate world where they do it as music therapy. But it's not. I've got a question here from Julia, and she writes, what's a great age to begin this with? What are the best ages and what is it appropriate for?
I love that question. Thank you for asking it.
Yes.
I do drum circles with as young as I can get them, like 3, 4, 5-year-old children. I do a lot of early childhood. And I think it can happen with any age. And if I have young children, I love to do intergenerational. So I love to do experiences with their parents.
Fantastic.
So that's my favorite, because then the parents are actually relaxing into rhythms and the kids are there and lifted by it. It lifts the group. So that's my favorite, intergenerational with really young children, but I do it with young children that are in Head Starts and preschools as well. A kindergarten, all the way up, middle school. It's beautiful. I mean, it's a funny question because I use it with all ages, and I adapt it at different age levels for different purposes. In middle school, it's beautiful for them to access polyrhythms, to really explore higher musical concepts that you could get at in a drum circle in a really experiential way, even to do fractions in math. Here's 12. Oh, 12 could be 3s and 4s going at the same time with a big beat accenting the first beat. And listen to it. And when do we come together? Boom. And they hear it and they go, oh. So there's a lot of cross-curricular concepts that can come up for different ages. 4th grade is a beautiful age, 3rd and 4th, to have them start to facilitate each other, because then they really learn to stand in leadership. And how does that feel to be in the center and to really lead your peers? You know, what a beautiful empowerment. High school, we've used drum circles for diversity groups, inclusion, to really drive home the concept that everyone has an important and valued part in a community. And if we all work together, we can really go places that we can't if we keep working in separate groups and fight and don't get along. And that everyone has value and every voice should have space to be heard and honored. Everyone has something important to say.
Wow. And like you said right at the beginning, there's no wrong notes.
There's no wrong notes.
So it's a perfect lesson in understanding, isn't it?
It's a perfect lesson in understanding and celebrating and cultural differences. And so particularly in schools that have lots of different cultures within the school community, it's a lovely way for kids to say, well, my mom and dad play this at home, or I hear a lot of these rhythms. And India, you know, they'll bring in all kinds of rhythms. And I always bring the drones in, and I'll bring a shruti box and say, what if we added a shruti to this drum circle?
Wow. Yeah.
And then moving drum circles into other instruments. And so one of the things I love to do is moving into the melodic instruments and playing them like we did in a drum circle. And all of a sudden rhythms are alive in a new way and in pitch. And it's fabulous. And it's just amazing what we can learn. And the music is gorgeous.
It is. And it's something that it's almost native to us all, isn't it?
Yes, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so simple.
It is so simple.
But you make it look simple as well. It's not, we know.
Question was good, and I say all ages, and I work with seniors and dementia and everyone in between. So I don't know if there's a really perfect age to start.
Yes.
I say the earliest you can start, the best.
Yes,
as young as you can begin, because it is for young children. They take to it. They are so in tune with rhythms, and it helps them to read. I mean, being able to keep steady beat is a precursor in the brain to be able to read and track words across a page. What could be better than drumming with children? And they learn how self-management and control. It is amazing what they can learn, and they can express themselves before they even have access to language. They can express their anger or frustration on a drum in a way that they would never have the words to access. And they can be heard. And the other kids can go, I hear what you're going through. And they can
Yeah.
imitate it so that they really don't feel alone on the journey of life, especially if it's a rough patch.
Yeah, and quite often young children, we're not even aware of their special needs at that age. So this is a great way to access and tap in and hear their emotion inside.
It's brilliant. One of my favorite things with young kids is to have them, I say they play the feeling of the day.
Yes.
So we go around the circle and each one of them gets to.
I love that.
And the other students guess what they were feeling, what emotion.
Fantastic.
And they show it on their face. I said, just be there with it as well as you can. And then they get to learn how to read each other and connect and understand emotion in such a powerfully clear way. It's fantastic. And the kids get it, I mean, they get it instantly.
Yes.
It's brilliant. It's a beautiful music therapy tool as well.
Yeah. One thing I've picked up from one of our speakers in the conference so far, Mary, is from Todd Whitaker. He said, we as teachers, we all go into modes. We go into this kid mode sometimes, and we go into this what is it? It's a business mode. Yes, there's times for all of these things. As teachers, Julia writes again, and one of her questions goes very nicely with what you're talking about there. She goes, what rules and guidelines do the teachers need to make to set this up for a joyful experience for all? It's a lot of what you've said so far is unsaid, but how do you get those modes in place, and how do you get the expectations in place right from the onset? What do you do?
Right from the onset, we all agree that, and this is why I do the Babel freeze.
Yes.
That we'll stop together. We all agree that it's fun to stop. So that's the first thing, just to make sure that everybody agrees. When someone says, when someone goes 1, 2, 3, 4, stop, we all agree that is the universal stop together is a brilliant moment. So that's the first thing.
Yes.
That we listen to each other. Again, it's listening, being willing to stop together, being willing, and I say having an attitude of saying yes to all ideas. So instead of going, oh, I don't like that, you say yes, you hear a new idea. Or if you stop the circle and one person's playing, that we imitate. And we can take an idea and honor a person and value them by imitation, and then take an idea and build on it. All voices, in the inclusion idea, I think I've talked about most of these things, but respect for one another, respect for all voices, respect for the drums and the instruments. And that's a big one. And I talk about how to use the drums and not to hit it too hard, and no sticks on the drum heads, depending on what instruments I'm using. Respect for the instruments, respect for one another. I'm just thinking, respect for yourself as well.
Yes.
So that sometimes you support ideas, and sometimes you step up and you share ideas. So a lot of times I'll open up a space in the circle that's a space for people to explore. So for instance, we'd have a rhythm like maybe heartbeat, wait. And then I'll say, that brings us back home. So back home, then make it up, make it up, make it up, back home, make it up, make it up. So they're free, back, make it up. They're all making it up together. And then they all come back. And then I invite around the circle each person to have one space to speak to the group.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. This is a brilliant way of setting up rules in the classroom.
Yeah, right. And so it is so instead of saying our rules of the drum circle today are, I set up the rules by modeling how we support one another and support the group by returning back home, being solid, but then creating space for our ideas. But then it's still got an organizational structure that holds it together. So back home is a beautiful way, because the rule is we agree, we're here, we're in the game of yes, we're making it up, but we keep coming back home. It keeps bringing us back together, and then we play and we're back together. And then that's how I'll have them start to solo. And I never say solo because I don't want to scare them. I'll say, just share your idea. You're telling a musical story. You've explored. Now share, what you loved, or take it freely to express whatever you're feeling, and don't know what you're going to play when it comes to your turn.
Beautiful. Yes. Oh, I love it. You've certainly got me. I'm going to have to go and learn this stuff now, Mary. This is just incredible, and it sounds like every class is a journey, every class is a mindset, and every class is just such an incidental way of setting up these really strong standards with our children and our society and community in time to come.
Exactly.
Fantastic. I love it. Look, Mary, we just want to know more now. How do we learn more from you? Do you have workshops and live trainings that people can attend, and how can we access you more?
I do. Thank you so much for asking. I have a website.
Yes.
It's rhythmic, www.rhythmicconnections, plural.com. And on that are listed the workshops that I do and the conferences I'm attending and presenting at. And pretty much I update it on a regular basis. I'm all over the world I have a 3-day training in Taiwan in August, which will be really fun for all educators. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. And Music for People, the other one I would have them check out. So my website will say all the things that I'm doing and where I'm at. And you can look at post-session notes to see where I've been and what I've been doing. I work in the fields of music therapy and corporate business and education. Education is my heart. And wellness, but I think that's what we do. Music for People, www.musicforpeople.org. It's a beautiful organization that I've been with. It's 30 years old this year.
Wow.
It's based on the work of David Darling, the cellist. And so now I'm a primary trainer, facilitating trainer, and teacher with that organization. We're in Switzerland and the United States, and now all over Europe with seed workshops in Spain and Italy and Germany and Holland.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. So and then I have books and DVDs and CDs of the work. I'm really dedicated to writing about it and to passing it on because I think it's a different way to look at education. And I think it's a 21st century model of how we might step into serving education and particularly music and human beings in the best, most empowering way possible. So I'm really dedicated to that and making people's lives better through music and kids' lives in all ages.
Yeah, Mary, I just love that. And I want to honor you right now for that dedication and that innovativeness that you're prepared to share with us, and that almost visionary approach that it is a concept that I just love going into this next century. I think it's these models of inquiry learning and all these things, flipped classroom and all that is coming in place so quickly now. And this just harnesses all of that different learning so easily. And I just want to honor you and thank you very much for your beautiful insights on that, and just to make it so accessible to us all to use some of those ideas.
Exactly. Try it, use it, do it.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's been an honor to speak to you today.
Thank you. Likewise. I really appreciate it. It's been very fun.